All right, for this leadership session, we're going to dive into a really powerful case study from Mahindra and Mahindra. Our goal here is to unpack what could be a brand new and honestly a much more impactful mandate for procurement. So let's jump right in. I want to kick things off with a question, a big one. What if our obsession with purchase price, the number one thing we're all measured on, is actually the wrong goal? What if it's holding us back? This is the exact dilemma that Mahindra found themselves facing. So let's set the scene with a problem I'm pretty sure we've all experienced, what I call the procurement dead end. You know, that point where the old tricks just don't work anymore. We all have our standard playbook, right? We run RFQs, we benchmark the heck out of our suppliers, we negotiate hard. These are the levers we pull every single day to try and find savings. And, for a while it works. But here's the thing. In really competitive markets like automotive where Mahindra lives, those tools, well, they eventually hit a wall. A hard wall. You can only squeeze a supplier so much on price before there's just nothing left to give. And you start doing real damage to the relationship and maybe even quality. So how'd they break through that wall? It wasn't some new negotiation tactic or a fancy e-sourcing platform. Nope. It all started by asking a totally different and way more powerful question. And this slide right here, this is the whole thing in a nutshell. They just stopped asking, how do we get a lower price, and started asking, where is the waste? It seems so simple, but that one little change in language reframed the entire problem. It turned a zero-sum game into a collaborative mission. And look at the full question they asked. It wasn't just about waste in the supplier's factory. They were looking for waste everywhere across the entire end-to-end supply chain, in their own designs, in logistics, even in their own bureaucratic approval processes. This question became the true north for their entire transformation. Now, asking a new question is a great start, but it's just words if you don't have a plan, right? So how did Mahindra turn this new way of thinking into something real, something they could actually execute on? Well, they borrowed a brilliant methodology from the world of manufacturing. They called it Lean Procurement. And this is genius because manufacturing has spent decades perfecting the art of hunting down and killing waste on the factory floor. So Mahindra just took that exact same mindset and applied it to the whole supply chain. The new rule was simple. If an activity doesn't add value for the final customer, it's gotta go. So what kind of waste are we talking about here? It's the stuff that hides in plain sight. Engineers over-specifying a part, which adds cost but zero function. Or mountains of inventory just sitting there, costing money. Long lead times, rework from quality issues, all of it. Each one of these is a goldmine of opportunity that has nothing to do with price. Their whole strategy really stood on these three pillars. Number one, go after waste across the entire system. Two, and this is so important, was to actually develop their suppliers' capabilities, not just beat them up. And third, they had to collaborate like never before internally, breaking down those walls between procurement, engineering, and quality. And this is the absolute game changer. The whole dynamic flipped. Instead of hammering suppliers for cost downs, Mahindra's teams literally went into their factories and trained them. They taught them lean methods like value stream mapping so they could find and eliminate their own waste. They were building better partners, not just demanding cheaper parts. Okay, so that's the approach. It sounds great in theory, but for us as leaders, the only thing that really matters is, did it work? What were the actual, tangible results of this huge shift? First, their total cost of ownership dropped significantly. And get this, it happened even in cases where the unit price of a part didn't budge 1 penny. The savings came from getting rid of waste in logistics, in inventory, in quality. It's the ultimate proof that price is just a tiny piece of the TCO puzzle. Second, by helping their suppliers become more efficient, they also made them way more reliable. On-time delivery went up, quality defects went down. That creates a totally different kind of value, operational stability, which, let's be honest, is often worth more than a few percentage points off the price. And of course, all of this led to a much more resilient supply chain. When you strengthen your partners, you automatically reduce your own risk of disruption. In the crazy world we're operating in today, that kind of resilience isn't just a nice-to-have, it's an absolute must-have. But maybe the most profound shift wasn't something you could put on a spreadsheet. It was the identity of the procurement team itself. They stopped being seen as the tough guys who just negotiate price. They became true value enablers, the people who could drive efficiency across the entire company. Okay, let's bring it all home. What's the big takeaway from all this for us as procurement leaders? I think it points to a powerful new mandate for our entire function. So, the lesson from Mahindra is crystal clear. Real, sustainable value isn't created by squeezing your suppliers until they squeak. It's created by working with them to systematically hunt down and eliminate waste. That's the new job, to be leaders in the war on waste. So the question I want you to take back to your teams is this: where are you going to start looking?